Hello and welcome to the Informative Talk Show. I'm Cap,
Puppy.
And I'm Miss B.
and today's topic we're going to talk about coping mechanisms.
Good versus a bad. But first, what is coping mechanisms? Well, according to the National Library of Medicine, coping is defined as the thoughts and behaviors mobilized to manage internal and external stressful situations. It is a term used distinctively for conscious and voluntary mobilization of acts, different from defense mechanisms that are subconscious or unconscious adaptive responses, both of which aim to reduce or tolerate stress. When individuals are subjected to a stressor, the varying ways of dealing with it are termed coping styles, which are a set of relatively stable traits that determine the individual's behavior in response to stress. These are consistent over time and across situations. Generally, coping is divided into reactive coping, a reaction following the stressor, and proactive coping, neutralize future stressors. Proactive individuals excel in stable environments because they are more routinized, rigid, and are less reactive to stressors, while reactive individuals perform better in a more variable environment. Coping scales measure the type of coping mechanisms a person exhibits. The most commonly used scales are COPE, Coping Orientation to Problems Experience, Coping Strategies, Questionnaire, Coping Inventory for Stressful Situations, Religious Cope, and Coping Response Inventory. Coping is generally categorized into four major categories, which are 1. Problem focused, which addresses the problem causing the distress. Examples of this style include active coping, planning, restraint coping, and suppression of competing activities. 2. Emotion focused, which aims to reduce the negative emotions associated with the problem. Examples of this style positive
Sorry.
reframing, acceptance, turning to religion, and humor. 3. Meaning focused, in which an individual uses cognitive strategies to derive and manage the meaning of the situation. 4. Social coping, support seeking, in which an individual reduces stress by seeking emotional mental support from their community. Many of the coping mechanisms prove useful in some situations. Some studies suggest that a problem focused approach can be the most beneficial. Other studies have consistent data that some coping mechanisms are associated with with worse outcomes. Maladaptive coping refers to coping mechanisms that are poor mental health outcomes, higher levels of psychopathology symptoms. These include disengagement, avoidance, and emotional suppression. The, phy- the physiology behind different coping styles is related to serotonergic and dopaminergic input of the medial prefrontal cortex and the nucleus accumbens. The neuropeptides vasopressin and oxytocin also have important implication relative to coping styles. On the other hand, neuroendocrinology, involving the level of activity of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenocortical axis, corticosteroids, and plasma cate- catecholamines were unlikely to have direct causal relationship with the coping style. Sorry for all the medical words, but Miss B, Cap, what are some of your favorite coping mechanisms that you like to do?
Hmm.
Well, I like to listen to music. Music calms me
I
down.
I same way with me. However, I have a couple of others. I do what's called the five senses grounding technique. Basically, you use your five senses and you can go five things I see, four things I smell, three things I can touch, two things I can hear, one thing I can taste. And it doesn't have to be in that order, it can be in any order you want, as long as you do all five senses.
What situation do
And
you use it primarily?
I use it in a bunch of different situations. The most common for me is when my anxiety is high or I'm in a large crowd.
What about you,
How
Miss
about
B?
you, Miss B?
Uh,
What do you use? When do you use music?
Um, when I feel anxious or upset, I use music as a coping mechanism.
Hmm.
I personally
Okay.
I personally
Sorry, did
use
we lose
age
you?
regression as a coping mechanism.
What is age regression?
Age regression is where your mind reverts to a time when you felt safe, and to a younger age when you felt like a lot safer than you are currently. It uses it to age regression helps deal with a lot of stressful like things going on around you, or it also helps if you had some trauma in your childhood, but you don't need to have trauma in your childhood. But if you had trauma in your childhood, age regression can sometimes help to feel like you have like your childhood back again. I use it because of a lot of external stressors in my life.
Okay. That actually brings up another excellent point that I've seen happen. People with DID or dissociative identity disorder can have one of their alters or other personality front for them while they're under the stress. I find that interesting.
I think that that's part of why the DID is formed because for my research of DID, it's formed so that the mind can protect itself from trauma happening around it. So it would make sense for an alter to come out to the front to let whoever was fronting before, if they're in a stressful situation, to calm down while the alter takes on the blunt of that stressful situation. That's what I've learned from research.
Huh. That's actually very interesting. What
Yes,
do you think, Miss B?
I think that was very interesting.
Okay. Now, let's discuss some bad coping mechanisms. What do y'all
Well,
think?
an obvious bad coping mechanism is self-harm, uh, and also drug or alcohol abuse, because those coping mechanisms, while they may help you deal with your stressors in the current time whenever you're doing them, it's bad overall because you're harming yourself, you're harming your body. And it's very difficult once starting these bad coping mechanisms to get out of them.
Mm, I actually am guilty of self harm myself. It took me
Um,
years to get out of it.
yeah, and I'm
It's
guilty of harming my body.
What were you saying, puppy?
I was gonna say, it's also the same in like self derogatory talk. If you like keep
Um,
hating on yourself, you're instead of harming your body, then you're harming your psyche, and just as harmful to yourself as actually physically harming yourself.
I'm guilty of that too.
Me as
Still to
well.
this day, I do it. I still do
Hmm.
that to this day, occasionally.
I mean, I can sit there and tell people I hate myself or I look ugly and just stuff like that. But I don't mean those stuff at all. I just
Mhm.
get irritated and I start saying things that I don't mean.
I've actually learned some ways to overcome, especially the self-derogatory terms.
Hmm.
Positive, positive affirmations. You basically say one good thing that happened in your life that day, and it
Right.
can be as simple as "I woke up."
Yeah, and you can also write them down to keep like a log list of positive affirmations about yourself, like um I'm proud of myself because I did this today. Or I am loved by my friends and family.
And now we're going to talk about mixed coping mechanisms, which could be either good or bad.
You know,
Some
introspection
good
actually. Sorry. Introspection actually could be considered a mixed coping mechanism because it can be considered good or bad depending on how you do it and who you ask. So it's good because it helps you process trauma. It also helps you like calm down your body, but it's also bad because some people can view it as avoidance, or sometimes it's like too unregulating on your emotions because you are going back to like a time before you had such good emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
What are some other mixed coping mechanisms?
There is venting, which basically means you go to somebody and you complain about another person or something that happened to you in a bad way.
Is that like therapy?
Kind of, except the person you go to is not a therapist, so they don't know how to help you when you're venting. And usually when you vent to another person that's not a therapist, all you're saying is bad stuff. You don't think of the good, which is what a therapist makes you do.
Missy, any thoughts?
Interesting. Actually, yes, there is. There's isolation for peace, as it's put. Basically, where you seclude yourself in a room away from other people to calm down, cool down, whatever, or to just avoid fighting, avoid an argument, and stuff like that. Any
Miss
comments?
B, any thoughts?
Miss B, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What is your thoughts about isolation?
Well, I tend to isolate myself sometimes. I mean, I can go to my room after a huge argument and just shut the door and listen to music or turn on the TV and listen to TV. And that's how I deal with it.
So you don't try to solve the problem peacefully, you just try to avoid it.
I avoid it.
Okay, and the last mixed coping mechanism I found was over or under eating. It could be good or it could be bad because you could gain more weight than you want, or you could lose more weight than you want.
Actually, I've done that too.
I'm guilty of it myself.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of overeating.
I would go to the fridge and I would go to the fridge and just I would go to the fridge and find something good to eat and take it to my room and eat it. Don't matter what it is.
Then I'd also sometimes I undereat, where if I'm like feeling sad or in a sad mood, instead of overeating, if I'm like particularly if I'm feeling sad about my body shape, then I'll like just not eat. And that's how I went like an entire year only eating one meal a day.
Isn't that body dysmorphia or something like that?
Dysphoria? Yeah, it is. It is body dysphoria.
And actually, some of the stuff we've mentioned brings us to some more bad coping mechanisms, such as avoidance.
I'm guilty of avoidance.
Oh, I'm guilty. I think we're all guilty of it. A
Yeah.
lot of people are probably guilty of it, where you try to avoid the situation, but it still
Oh,
comes
I'm trying
right
to
to
avoid
you.
everything happening in America right now.
Yeah.
Fortunately, stuff always comes back to bite you in the end. Another bad coping mechanism is over control, where you micromanage every little detail of your day.
Now, that
Or
one's
you
just
try to
exhausting.
anyways. How so?
Well, think about it. If you're so focused on every single part of your day being exactly how you imagined it, how you planned it, then what happens when things go off the rails? You're just setting yourself up for a meltdown.
That's true.
Very, very true, and
Hey,
that's why
and
this
I'm guilty of that.
Luckily, I've
this
never
is
been
why it's
guilty of
listed
that.
as a bad coping mechanism. That's why that was considered a bad coping mechanism, is because you go off the rails and your whole day is screwed up, and
Yeah.
you're in a panic attack.
Oh God, yeah.
The last one
Right?
that's a bad coping mechanism, doom scrolling. I'm guilty of it.
I'm guilty of it.
Right.
It's so difficult because you go on there to like watch maybe a few shorts of like people that you subscribe to, and then you end up just swiping up, and then you keep swiping up, and suddenly it's 4 a.m. That's why it's bad. It's bad because like it's like you're turning off your brain, but you're not really turning it off. You're just letting mind-numbing content into your brain while you stay up for hours, and that's really bad for your health.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
And now we're gonna. You're fine. Actually, that actually brings up a good point. What exactly is doom scrolling for people that don't know?
Well, my dad seems to think it's scrolling shorts that's only about bad things, but any Gen Z person will tell you doom scrolling is when you're just scrolling shorts mind numbingly for hours on end, ignoring all your other needs, functions, whatever else you were going to do that day. You're just scrolling.
Yeah. And now we're gonna head back to some positive coping mechanisms. There is journaling, which is actually it's where you write down anything and everything that's on your mind or that happened to you that day, whether it's good or bad. And once you get it on paper, you turn to the next page and you forget about it.
Or you can burn that piece of
At least
paper.
that's what I do. Burning the paper is not always good unless you do it in the sink.
Oh, okay.
Not in the sink, in the trash. You don't want the ash in your pipes.
You also don't want to set your trash can on fire.
Well, don't set the trash, like, burn it above the trash and let the ash fall into the trash can. Or do it outside
True.
on concrete.
True.
Very true.
Another good positive coping mechanism that I've seen a lot of people use, exercise. Any kind of movement.
Walking.
Just,
What, Miss B?
Miss B, what did you say?
I said walking.
Yep, that's an excellent exercise.
Or if you can't walk, just moving around your arms. Or, like, I don't know.
Any kind of movement.
I can walk. Personally, I can walk. But, if you can't walk, move around your arms. Just try to move some part of your body. I've seen sitting exercise. I've seen exercises for whenever you're seated, so.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. Excuse me, sorry about that,
Miss
people.
B, do you know of another good coping mechanism?
Actually going outside and enjoying the air.
Oh, I never thought of that one.
Yeah,
Enjoying the
just
nature.
going outside and enjoying the air,
Like
enjoying the weather.
mindfulness,
Mhm.
mindfulness and nature.
Yeah,
That's a good one. And another thing you can do while you're outside is deep breathing,
yeah,
where you take a few minutes and you just take deep breaths.
right.
Just let yourself be in the moment.
Exactly.
Yes.
Think of nothing else but the moment.
Another great coping
Right.
mechanism I don't think people like realize enough is if you say no. So if you're put in a situation where you don't want to be in it, just say no. Walk away from that situation. But even if you can't, even if that situation already happened, replay that in your mind and say no. Empower yourself that way.
Actually,
Yep.
I did that for the 3 days I was gone.
Ah, good for you.
I did.
There's also the adverse of that, saying yes. That can
If
be
there's
a
something that you
negative.
wanted to do. Well,
If
and
you
also
wanted to
if there
do
was
or
something that you wanted to
something,
do and you didn't do it because you were too scared to try or too anxious, you could go back and replay that situation and say yes, or you could even say yes to it in your life right now and go do it. Go do that thing that you've been wanting to do that you haven't been doing because you haven't allowed yourself to feel up to doing it. Just say yes and do it anyway, and you'll feel better, probably.
Well,
another coping mechanism I use, being creative. I make things. Like I love making jewelry. When I'm stressed, I go straight to making jewelry unless I can't. Like if I'm out in public.
What were you gonna say, Miss B?
oh, I totally forgot what I was going to say. Sorry,
Oh,
it'll come back up to me.
I want to take a moment to say that having hobbies is a great coping mechanism because
There you go.
having a hobby like singing or
Mm.
writing or reading, anything to take your mind off of what is currently like stressing you so that you can focus on something else to be able to process what later when you're calmer environment. I find that that's great. I especially love writing because then I can take like all the ideas of things maybe I wished happened to me and I can live it out vicariously through the characters I write on the page.
That's
Yeah,
actually a good idea. I may have to
yeah.
try that. Another coping mechanism I have, I use incense and I use a diffuser, and I will
Mm-hmm.
just sit in my room, turn the diffuser on, deep breathe the smell of whatever it is in, and let all my troubles wash out. And let's see.
I think being mindful is a really good thing to do.
Yep, being mindful is
Miss B,
definitely very good.
do you ever practice mindfulness?
I do.
I don't think I do it as much as I'd like, but
Hmm.
I need to stop and think about what I'm doing, about how I will respond to a situation. Because at the end of the day, I'm the one in control of my own actions. Maybe not my own thoughts, but how I respond to something that happened, definitely. And so I think about things that happened often. Like if I had an argument or a disagreement or something just made me so mad, I'll put a pause in it and I'll come back and I'll think about it later. And I'll try to be mindful when I think about it. I'll try to think about how it happened, how it made me feel, and I'll tell myself it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to have your own opinions, but it's not hurting you at the moment. Or maybe it was hurting you, and maybe it still is, but that just means that you have to go out and seek help. Seeking help is a good thing to do.
Yes, it is.
Going back to what you just said, puppy. Something else you can do. Think about what you could have done differently.
Yeah.
So let's say you get into an argument. How you can go back and think, how could have I not had this argument? Or what could I have said to defuse the argument faster?
But you have to be careful when thinking like that and not be like, I'm the problem, and not be like, they're the problem, they're the problem. You just have to be like, we have different opinions, and that's okay.
It's okay to have different opinions. It's okay to feel this way that you're feeling.
Right.
Some more mixed humor, or there's humor for mixed coping. Yes, laughter is a good medicine, as some people would say.
But a
But
lot of humor is
you need to,
self-deprecating.
yes, indeed. That's what I was just about to say.
Sorry.
You're fine. Yeah, I'm glad you thought of it because I couldn't think of the word. Now, another thing is the humor. Don't let it mask your pain or use it to deflect from a situation. Deflecting basically means you're avoiding the situation. You don't want to do that.
Mm-mm.
What's some other coping mechanisms y'all can think of that we haven't discussed?
Let's see.
Talking with friends. Like
Yes,
not
talking with
venting,
friends.
but just talking.
Okay. Ooh, interesting. According to this article, another coping mechanism is productivity. Checking off to-dos feels great, but using business to avoid emotions is just a distraction dressed as success, is what it says for
It's a type
productivity.
of it's a type of avoidance, being like a
Yes,
workaholic and
exactly.
like burying yourself in work.
That actually brings up another point that I can think of. The exact opposite, being lazy.
Everything is good in moderation.
Yes. But you have to be careful and don't take it too far. So, what are your thoughts on that, Miss B?
Um, yeah, they're all good. There are some things that I'm guilty of. Yeah, like I tend to vent, but I realize that I shouldn't because none of my friends are therapists. But I just go and have a good time with my friends and forget about my problems.
Mm-hmm.
I just hate arguments. I hate confrontation.
Sometimes you can't avoid it, though.
Sometimes you can't. You're right.
And trying to avoid it will only hurt you in the end.
Right.
Because it'll just be putting it off. Or you'll be
Yeah.
suppressing your own opinions and thoughts.
Yep. Let's see. There is also, going back to self harm, there's also dressing yourself up, or not dressing yourself up. What am I thinking? It's the opposite of self-harm, where you do something. You can basically, you don't want to do these self-affirmations too much, because then you
Right.
could be psyching yourself up only to be disappointed later.
Yeah.
So a suggestion that I've been told is only do 1 or 2 a day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can be
Because
difficult to do affirmations.
yes, that's where you can actually do something like ask for help. I do it all the time. I ask my family, hey, what are some positive affirmations you can think of that I can use?
Yeah, but
Sometimes
still having an
they can help,
affirmation
sometimes they
having an affirmation told to you to use and then saying it. Sometimes you say it even if you don't believe in it. You can't force yourself to believe in something. So that's why affirmations are difficult for me, at least sometimes, because I can say an affirmation even if I don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could say, I am the greatest voice actor of all time. And that's not true at all. And I don't believe it's
Yeah.
true.
That's when you have to make sure that the positive affirmation is actually about you and is real. Don't do a false positive affirmation, which is a negative coping mechanism. Y'all's thoughts?
I
But
agree.
yep. Mm.
There are positive coping mechanisms, endless negative coping mechanisms, and of course what we're saying here is only things that we are thinking of. Um, but there's like so many more. And at the end of the day, it's a positive coping mechanism is something that helps you, and a negative one is one that like harms you over the long
It
term.
can harm you,
Sometimes you might
yes.
sometimes you might not even know it's harming you until someone outside of the situation looks in.
And always remember, it's okay to ask for help. You
Yeah.
Even
don't.
if it's really
You're
hard.
not alone. You're not alone. There's always someone willing to help. You just have
Hey,
to.
guys, hold on. Okay. Can I meet you guys? Okay. It's too close. Underwater.
Miss B, did you have something you needed to say?
2, 1. Now, we've talked about many different coping mechanisms, good, bad, mixed. It's your decision which ones you use, which ones you don't. You can make up some of your own as long as it does not affect you in a negative way. This and I'm Puppy. Not Puppy, I'm Cat.
I'm Puppy.
And I'm Miss B.
And this has been the Informative Talk Show, and we are now signing off.